AITA for confronting my cheating wife with her lover's wife? Do you think he loves me? Look, Natalie, I do not know if he loves you. What I know is that he pays for the electricity, the gas, and the school tuition. And that is quite a lot nowadays. That is what my mother-in-law said to my wife, thinking I was not listening. I heard it from the hallway while carrying the HEB bags, and in that moment I understood something that took me years to accept. To that family, I was never a person, I was a service. But it is not my mother-in-law I want to talk to you about. That conversation was just the crack through which I started to look at what was already rotting. What truly destroyed me came later, and it came from the person who slept beside me every night. My name is Mike. Well, they call me Mike. My full name is Michael Reynolds, but only the county clerk and my business invoices know that. I am 39 years old and I live in San Antonio, Texas, in a house I bought before getting married when I was still single and my decisions only affected me. I have a fine woodworking shop. I make custom furniture, built-in kitchens, bookcases, closets. It is not a huge business, but it provides enough to live debt-free and to treat myself occasionally. One of those treats was an apartment in Galveston on the Texas Gulf Coast. I bought it with a regular mortgage about 6 years ago, when I still had the romantic idea of having a place to go with Natalie. That is my ex-wife's name, Natalie Reynolds. Whenever routine suffocated us, Natalie and I met at a baptism. She was the godmother, and I was a filler guest. The kind that shows up because a friend of a friend dragged them along. We talked all afternoon. I liked her laugh, which was messy and loud, as if she did not care who heard it. I liked that she ordered 3 plates of fajitas and did not apologize for any of them. I liked that she told me, "You have the hands of someone who really works," when I showed her a picture of a piece of furniture I was making. 3 months later, we were dating. 1 year later, we got married at the courthouse, without a big party, with food from local food trucks in the courtyard of the house and a sheet cake that my Aunt Gladys made. The first 2 years were calm, not perfect, no marriage is, but functional. She worked as an administrative assistant at an auto parts distributor over by the north side. I spent my time in the shop. We would see each other at night, eat dinner together, watch a show. Sometimes we would go downtown to walk around the river walk, eat tacos from the vendors, and have coffee at that place by the plaza. The problem started when I offered her a job. Look, my shop grew. I started needing someone to help me with quotes, collections, customer service, and social media. Natalie had spent months complaining about her boss, that they paid her little, that the environment was hostile. So one day I told her, "Come work with me. I will pay you the same, and you will not have to put up with anyone." She gladly accepted, and for a while, it worked well. She handled the administrative side. I handled production. The shop started billing more because she knew how to navigate social networks, posted pretty pictures of the furniture, and answered messages on Marketplace and the business app. She even got a new logo made with a designer she found on Fiverr. I was proud of her. Truly, what I did not see or did not want to see was what happened when I left to deliver orders. The shop is in the back of the house, but deliveries sometimes took me out all day. San Antonio is not a small city, and when you have to take a built-in kitchen all the way to New Braunfels or a bedroom set to Bernie, you leave early and come back late. Natalie stayed alone in the shop with access to everything. The computer, the invoices, the keys to the Galveston apartment that hung on the corkboard next to the warehouse door. There was a hardware and hinge supplier, a guy named Todd Jenkins. He came to the shop every 15 days to drop off materials. At first, I dealt with him, but as Natalie took more control of the business, she started receiving him. Normal, I thought. It is part of the job. Todd was a nice guy, around 35, somewhat stocky, always with his white Ford pickup truck full of boxes. I liked him. One day, I even invited him to eat some fajitas at a stand on the highway near the exit. We talked about football, traffic, how expensive everything was. A regular guy, married, by the way. His wife's name is Beth. They call her Beth, and she works as a nurse in a private clinic around the south side. What I did not know is that every time Todd came to the shop and I was not there, the hinge deliveries dragged on longer than necessary. Natalie started ordering materials more frequently. First every 15 days, then every week. Then, "I need him to come tomorrow because we are missing an urgent batch." I signed the purchase orders without question. After all, she managed that department. The night everything changed was a Tuesday. It had been raining all afternoon. That Texas rain that starts soft and suddenly unleashes a downpour that soaks you. I arrived at the shop soaked after delivering a desk in the Stone Oak area. Natalie was already asleep on the living room couch with her cell phone in her hand, the TV turned on to a home renovation show that she always watched. I leaned in to take her phone and put it to charge as I did every night. But the screen was on, and what was there was not a good night message for me. It was a conversation with a contact saved as Lily Hardware. The name seemed weird to me because I knew all the suppliers, and there was no Lily. I read the last line that was on the screen. I wanted to be Friday already. I am dying to be with you again. And below, a heart emoji and a photo. It was not an explicit photo, but it was suggestive enough to tie my stomach in knots. It was Natalie in the bathroom of the Galveston apartment. I recognized the blue tiles that I laid myself last summer. My hands shook. I sat on the kitchen floor just like that, on the cold tiles, with my back against the refrigerator. I could hear the rain outside, as if I were inside a tunnel. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the phone against the wall, but something stopped me. It was not calm, it was fear. Fear that if I reacted right, then I would lose the chance to know the whole truth. I copied Lily Hardware's number into my phone. The next day, I looked it up on a reverse phone lookup app that I use to filter customer calls. The name that came up left me empty. Todd Jenkins, my supplier, the guy I ate fajitas with 4 months ago. The guy whose wife, Beth, packs him lunch every morning and sends it to work in a lunch bag with a note that says, "I love you." I know about the note because once Todd showed it to me in the shop, laughing, saying, "This woman treats me like an elementary school kid," and I laughed with him. I laughed with the man who was having an inappropriate relationship with my wife. I spent 3 days without sleeping well. I went to the shop, cut wood, sanded, varnished, but my head was somewhere else. On the third day, I messed up a cut on a walnut door that an architect from the Alamo Heights neighborhood had ordered. I ruined a board worth almost $100. Me, who has not messed up a cut since I was 23 years old. I stood there looking at the ruined wood for a long time with the handsaw in my hand and thought, this is what happens when you let someone occupy your head this way. It ruins your work, it ruins your sleep, it even ruins the way you breathe. That night Natalie asked me why I was so quiet. I told her my back hurt, that I had carried a lot of material. She offered me a massage, she touched my shoulders with the same hands that sent messages to another man, and I let her do it because it was not the time yet. Every time she got close to give me a kiss or ask if I wanted coffee, I felt a wave of nausea rise from my chest to my throat. But I did not say anything. Not yet. The first thing I did was check the bills for the Galveston apartment. The electricity receipt for the last 4 months showed extremely high consumption for a place that supposedly no one used. I logged into the utility app and saw the dates of highest usage. Fridays and Saturdays. Always Fridays and Saturdays. Exactly the days Natalie told me she was going to visit her mom, or had plans with a friend, or needed a weekend to herself. Then I checked her credit card charges, an extension of mine that I had given her for shop expenses and emergencies. There were charges at a gas station on the highway to the coast. There was a charge at a convenience store in Galveston. There was a charge at a seafood restaurant called the Crazy Crab, which is 3 blocks from the apartment. I never saw them before because I only ever checked the card's total, not the individual transactions. What a dumbass I was. The next piece was the hardest. I had to talk to Beth, Todd's wife, but I only knew her by name, so I did something I still do not know if it was right or cowardly. I sent her a message on Facebook. Her profile was public, pictures of her at the clinic, pictures with Todd on their anniversary, pictures of a French poodle named Cinnamon. It took me 40 minutes to write that message. I deleted it and rewrote it like 7 times. In the end, I put something like, "Beth, we do not know each other in person. I am the owner of the shop where your husband delivers materials. I need to talk to you about something delicate. It is not about money or work. It is personal. If you can meet me one day this week, I would appreciate it. I know it sounds weird, but it is important." She replied 2 hours later. "Is everything okay?" I told her no, that everything was not okay, but that I preferred to explain in person. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop in the Stone Oak area, near her clinic. I arrived 15 minutes early. I ordered an Americano that I did not drink. When Beth walked in, I recognized her from the photos. She was a petite woman, with short hair, round glasses, and an olive green sweater that was too big for her. She sat across from me with a worried look. She asked me directly, "Does Todd owe money?" "No," I told her. "What I am going to tell you is worse." I showed her the screenshots on my phone, all of them. The conversations, the plans, the picture of Natalie in the apartment bathroom. I explained the credit card dates, the electricity bills, the frequency of the deliveries. Beth did not cry. No. At first she just stared at the screen as if she were reading a medical diagnosis. I guess because of her profession, she is used to receiving bad news without breaking down. But when she reached a message where Todd told Natalie, "I feel more alive with you than with anyone else," I saw her lower lip tremble. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and said to me, "How long?" The messages I found go back at least 8 months. 8 months, she repeated, as if she were measuring how many lies could fit in 8 months. And the answer is thousands. Thousands of little lies that pile up like dust under a piece of furniture until one day you move the furniture and discover the filth that was always there. I asked her for something. "Beth, I need you not to say anything to him yet. Not to Todd and not to Natalie. I need this to carry on as if no one knew, at least for a couple of weeks." She looked at me harshly. "What for?" I explained my plan. She listened in silence, with her hands wrapped around her coffee cup, which she did not drink either. In the end, she said, "I'm in." The next 2 weeks were the longest of my life. I acted normal. I said good morning to Natalie. I asked her how it went with the clients. I gave her money to go to H-E-B to buy new bed sheets for the house, sheets that would probably end up in Galveston. Meanwhile, I called a trusted locksmith to make me an extra copy of the apartment keys and contacted a neighbor in the building, Mr. Harold Peterson, a retired man who lives on the floor below and always greeted me when I went to do maintenance on the apartment. I asked him for a favor. "Mr. Harold, if you see anyone enter the upstairs apartment in the coming weeks, please let me know. The time does not matter." "Problems with tenants?" he asked me. "Something like that," I told him. Friday arrived. Natalie told me she was going to see her mom. Just the weekend. "I will be back Sunday night." She gave me a kiss on the forehead. She smelled like her usual perfume, that one I gave her for her birthday. I felt sick to my stomach. I told her that sounded good, to have a nice time, and to say hi to Mrs. Patricia Walsh, her mom. 2 hours later, my phone rang. "Mr. Harold here, son." A lady just arrived with a young man. They parked a white Ford pickup truck downstairs. "White Ford. Todd." I called Beth. "It is today? I am leaving for Galveston in an hour. Are you coming?" She already had a bag packed by the door of her house. She told me later she had kept the bag ready for 3 days waiting for the road from San Antonio to Galveston. It is about 4 hours on the freeway. We left together in my SUV. We barely spoke. Beth rode with her arms crossed, looking out the window as the city faded into the background and the landscape turned greener, coastal, humid. Along the way, we stopped for some tacos at a roadside stand. She did not eat. Neither did I, but I bought 2 anyway because I needed to do something with my hands other than squeezing the steering wheel until it broke. We drove through the coastal towns when it was already dark. The smell of the sea came through the air conditioning vents. Beth said the only sentence of the entire trip. "Do you think they will ask us for forgiveness?" I did not answer because the answer did not matter to me. I was not going for an apology. I was going for a final period. We arrived in Galveston around 11 o'clock at night. The building was dark, except for one window on the second floor. My apartment. The light in the master bedroom was on. Todd's truck was still parked downstairs. We went up in silence. I slid the key into the lock slowly, as if I were opening a piece of furniture I had just finished and did not want to scratch. The door opened without a sound. We walked into the living room. On the table were 2 wine glasses, a half-empty bottle, and an aluminum tray with the remains of some breaded shrimp they probably ordered from the Crazy Crab. You could hear music coming from the bedroom, some soft music playing from a Bluetooth speaker. I sat on the couch, Beth sat on a dining room chair, and we waited. We did not have to wait long. After about 20 minutes, the bedroom door opened. Todd came out in Bermuda shorts and shirtless, with messy hair, looking for the wine bottle. He grabbed the bottle, took a swig straight from it, and when he turned toward the living room, he saw me. I am going to describe his face because I will never forget it. It was as if someone had knocked the wind out of his lungs with a single blow. The bottle slipped from his hand. He did not drop it entirely, but he trembled so hard that a splash of red wine landed on his foot. He froze, his eyes wide open, and the first thing he said, and I find this incredible, was, "Mike, I can explain." "I do not need you to explain anything, Todd," I told him. "But I think your wife does want an explanation." Beth stepped out of the shadow of the dining room and stood in front of him. She did not yell. She did not hit him. She just looked at him with an expression that was worse than any blow. Pure disappointment, unmixed, unadorned. 8 months, Todd, she told him. 8 months while I packed your lunch with pretty notes. He did not answer. Then Natalie came out of the bedroom. She was wearing one of my old t-shirts, one I used for painting in the shop, and when she saw me, her knees buckled. She literally had to grab onto the doorframe to keep from falling. "Mike," she started. "No," I told her. "Do not say my name like that. As if you could fix this with a tone of voice." A silence fell that lasted maybe 10 seconds, but felt like an hour. Outside, you could hear the sea. The waves crashing against the rocks on the boardwalk, a dog barking in the distance, and inside, for people who knew that nothing was ever going to be the same again, Natalie started to cry. The tears rolled down slowly, soundlessly, as if her body were doing something her head had not authorized yet. She told me it was a mistake, that it did not mean anything, that she loved me. I let her speak, not because I cared about what she was saying, but because I wanted her to hear herself. I wanted her to hear how ridiculous it sounded to say it did not mean anything after 8 months of planning meetings behind my back in my apartment with my money. When she finished talking, I took out my phone and showed her the folder, the screenshots, the utility receipts, the credit card charges, the photos Mr. Harold Peterson sent me of them walking into the building, everything organized by date like a case file. "This," I told her, "is what I am going to present to my lawyer on Monday. We are getting divorced. It is not up for discussion. You are going to leave the shop. I am going to give you your full severance as if you were any resigning employee, because despite everything, what you did for the business has value, and I am not a thief. But it is over." Then I turned to Todd. "You and I no longer have a business relationship. I am going to buy hardware from someone else. And whatever happens between you and Beth is your business, but she already has the same folder I do." Beth stood up, walked over to Todd, and said something I could not manage to repeat because it was in a very low voice, but I saw him close his eyes and lower his head. Whatever it was, it hurt him more than if she had screamed at him. We left. Beth and I walked out of the apartment, went down the stairs, and got into the truck. She was crying quietly, and I drove with my hands cramped on the steering wheel, feeling the salty air of Galveston coming through the window and stinging my eyes. Before pulling away, I spent a minute staring at the building. The light in the apartment was still on. I pictured Natalie and Todd inside, sitting on opposite sides of the room, not knowing what to say to each other now that there was no secret binding them, because that is what binds people in an affair, the secret. Take that away, and what is left is shame. And two people who really do not know each other outside of someone else's place. I drove the 4 hours back to San Antonio without stopping. I did not play music, we did not talk, just the sound of the engine and the semi-trucks passing on the highway. Beth fell asleep near the halfway point with her head resting on the window. I woke her up when we reached San Antonio. She said, "Thank you," with a raspy voice, got out of the SUV, and walked to her door without looking back. The following week was all paperwork. My lawyer, attorney Phil Harrington, a mustached man who has his office downtown above a print shop, told me that with the evidence I had, the divorce was going to be fast, and it was. In Texas, with everything documented, it went through without much contest. Natalie did not put up a fight. I think she knew that if she pushed I would release everything, and she did not want her mom or her friends to see those screenshots. The only time she tried to negotiate was when she asked to keep the car, a Civic I had bought for her to commute between the shop and deliveries. I told her no. The car was in my name, and I needed it for the business. She insisted. I showed her the folder on my cell phone again without saying anything, just letting the photos do the talking. She did not ask for the car again. We signed in 3 weeks. She kept what she brought to the marriage, which was not much, and I kept the house, the shop, and the Galveston apartment. I paid her severance from the business, $3,100 deposited into her Bank of America account the same day she left. I did not owe her a single cent. Beth got divorced too. I found out because a month later she sent me a message. I already signed. Thank you for opening my eyes. I replied with a stay strong and a thumbs up because at that moment I did not have words for more. I learned later that Todd went to live with a brother in a town farther away and that his hardware business fell apart because he lost several clients, myself included. 6 months passed. I returned to Galveston on a Sunday. I went into the apartment alone, which now smelled musty and like salt air. The blue tiles in the bathroom were still there, the ocean view was still there, but I was no longer the same guy who bought that place thinking about romantic weekends with a woman who was making a fool out of me. I opened the windows. I swept, made coffee in an old little pot I had in the kitchen, and sat on the balcony to watch the sea while the coffee boiled. Mr. Harold came up to say hello. He brought me a plate of shrimp po' boys that his daughter made. We sat down to eat together without talking much, as men do when they have already said what they needed to say. Today I rent the apartment out on Airbnb on weekends. It brings me about $400 a month. Natalie blocked me on everything. Beth sends me a message once in a while. Nothing deep, just a how are you, every so often. And I am still in the shop, cutting wood, sanding, varnishing, making furniture for people who will use it in homes where maybe things also happen that no one sees. Comment. Hey everyone, I just wanted to share a few thoughts after this story. I believe that protecting your self-respect is one of the most important things we can do for ourselves. When someone crosses a line, it's okay to set clear boundaries and walk away with dignity. I admire how the main character handled everything with responsibility and fairness toward everyone involved. It shows that kindness doesn't mean letting people take advantage of you. Healing takes time, but choosing peace over chaos is always worth it. Take a moment today to think about the relationships in your life and whether they truly lift you up. Remember, you deserve to be treated as a person, not just a provider. I hope this encourages you to keep moving forward and create the calm life you want. What about you? Have you ever had to choose yourself in a tough situation? If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.